I remember the moment like it just happened. My name's Chloe. I'm 32 years old, and honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. I was sitting in our sun-drenched kitchen, the scent of coffee hanging in the air, casually chatting with my sister, Sophie. Venting, you know? You say things. Things you probably shouldn't say out loud. You vent a little too much and realize, later, that you should have just kept your mouth shut. Yeah, that's me. I don't think I meant for him to overhear it. But maybe, deep down, a part of me didn't care enough to keep my voice down. I told Sophie that if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't marry Ben. I said it so flippantly, so easily, like it was no big deal, as if I was talking about a bad haircut instead of the man I promised to spend the rest of my life with. The good man, the steady man, the man who had become as predictable as the sunrise. I don't even know why I said it. Maybe I was feeling bored that afternoon, trapped by the sheer, suffocating beige of our perfect life. Maybe I just wanted her sympathy. A little nod that said, I get it. It must be so hard being you. Ben wasn't even doing anything wrong. He was in the living room, probably scrolling through articles on his tablet about ancient civilizations. That's what he does to unwind after a long day of teaching history to teenagers who couldn't care less. He's steady, predictable. But I said it. And then the silence hit me. It wasn't Sophie's silence. She's used to my dramatic outbursts. She just raised an eyebrow, a silent warning. No, this was the other kind. The kind of silence that feels heavy. Like the air suddenly thickens, pressing in on you. I turned my head, just enough, to see him standing in the doorway. He didn't say anything. He didn't yell. Didn't ask me to explain. Didn't even look angry. He just looked blank. He looked right at me for a second, his face an empty canvas, and then he turned and walked out of the room. The sound of the front door closing behind him wasn't a slam. It was a soft, final click that made my stomach feel sick. I wasn't expecting that. Honestly, I thought he'd argue. At least get mad. Give me something to fight against. But leaving? That wasn't his style. Ben's always been the calm one, the patient one, the one who balances out my, let's just call it energy. I didn't think he'd actually leave. Oh God, Sophie whispered, her eyes wide. Chloe. I forced a laugh, the sound brittle in the quiet room. He'll be fine, I said, waving a dismissive hand. He's just being dramatic. I don't know why I said that. Maybe because if I admitted I was wrong, truly wrong, I'd have to deal with the guilt. And I really didn't feel like doing that. As Sophie gathered her things to leave, her gaze was full of pity. I hated it. Just call him, she advised, her voice soft. He'll call me when he's done with his little tantrum, I replied, my voice sharper than I intended. But as the door closed behind her, a different kind of anxiety crept in. It wasn't about Ben's feelings. Not really. It was a flicker of something else. A secret panic. I quickly pulled out my phone, my fingers flying across the screen. I scrolled to a name, Leo. I deleted our entire conversation from the past week. Just in case. You know, just in case he was more than just dramatic. An hour went by, then two. He didn't come back. I called him once. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. I texted him. You okay? No response. Fine, I thought. If he wants to pout, that's on him. I wasn't about to beg him to come back over something that wasn't even that serious. But as the night wore on, the quiet house started to feel less like a relief and more like an accusation. I felt this weird mix of anger and panic. Like, how dare he just leave me here? But also, where the hell was he? Was he trying to teach me a lesson? I stayed up until midnight, scrolling through social media, pretending I wasn't waiting for the sound of his key in the lock. He didn't come back. By the time I finally went to bed, our bed, his side cold and empty, I was more annoyed than anything else. I told myself he'd be back when he was ready, and I wasn't going to lose sleep over it. Spoiler, I totally did. The next morning, his side of the bed was still empty. His toothbrush was still in the bathroom, his worn-out running shoes still by the door. So it's not like he packed up and left for good, but I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. I texted him again. Where are you? Can we talk? Still nothing. At this point, I started to worry. Not because I felt bad, but because I don't like being ignored. I'm not the kind of person who deals well with the silent treatment. If there's a problem, I need to talk about it, hash it out, and move on. But Ben, he's more of a let-it-simmer kind of guy. It drives me crazy. That evening, I couldn't stand the silence anymore. I called Sophie. Have you heard from him? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. No. Have you apologized? I scoffed. Apologize for what? For being honest? For saying what I was feeling in the moment? He shouldn't have been eavesdropping. Even as the words came out, they felt hollow. By the end of the second day, I was furious. Who does he think he is? Making me stress out like this. I needed a distraction. I needed air. I found myself at a dimly lit bar downtown, the kind with dark wood and low music. I sent a text. Are you free? The reply came almost instantly. For you? Always. 5 minutes. Leo slid into the booth across from me, a charming, easy smile on his face. He's a freelance photographer, all restless energy and intense eyes. He was everything Ben wasn't. He was exciting, dangerous. He made me feel seen. Trouble in paradise? He asked, his fingers brushing against mine on the table. You have no idea, I sighed, leaning forward. Ben left. Leo's smile faltered. Left? Like, left for good? No, of course not. He's just being Ben. He overheard me saying something stupid to my sister, and now he's on some silent protest. What did you say? I waved my hand dismissively. It doesn't matter. It was just words. I looked at him, my voice dropping. I'm so sick of it, Leo. The predictability, the quiet, the sheer niceness of it all. With you, I feel alive. He leaned closer, his scent sandalwood and something sharp, like gin filling my senses. So what if he knows about us? He whispered, a thrill running through me at the forbidden words. He doesn't, I said, a little too quickly. He couldn't. This is just about my stupid comment. He's just trying to punish me. But even as I said it, a seed of doubt was planted. I went home feeling a strange cocktail of defiance and dread. As I was about to get into bed, a notification popped up on my laptop. A joint bank account alert. My heart pounded. I opened it, and there it was, a charge from earlier that day. The Chamberlain Hotel, downtown. A cold fury washed over me. So he wasn't sleeping in his car or at a friend's place. He was hiding out in some clean, anonymous hotel room, avoiding me, like I wasn't even worth a conversation. The nerve. I grabbed my phone and immediately called the hotel. Chamberlain Hotel, how may I help you? A polite voice chirped. I need to be connected to Ben Carter's room. One moment. There was a pause, some typing. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't have a guest registered under that name. My blood ran cold. Of course he wouldn't use his own name. Listen, I said, my voice tight. My husband is staying there. He's tall, brown hair, probably looks miserable. I need to talk to him. I'm sorry, ma'am, she said, her tone shifting to a fake, professional sympathy. But I can't disclose any information about our guests. I wanted to scream. Instead, I hung up, so he was playing games. He was hiding. Fine. Two can play at that game. I was planning my next move, a dramatic, unannounced arrival at the hotel when I heard the sound I'd been waiting for. A key in the front door. My heart leaped into my throat. I stood up, my mind racing, preparing my lines, my righteous anger. He walked in, and he stopped me cold. It was Ben, but not the Ben who had left 2 days ago. He wasn't rumpled or tired. His hair was neatly combed, his beard was freshly trimmed, and he was wearing a crisp button-down shirt I hadn't seen in months. He looked purposeful, calm. The blank look was gone. In its place was an unnerving, quiet resolve. He set his overnight bag down by the couch and stood there, looking at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. I found my voice first, lacing it with as much victimhood as I could muster. You're finally back, I said, crossing my arms. Are you going to explain why you ghosted your wife for 2 days? Do you have any idea how worried I've been? He didn't take the bait. He just nodded slowly. We need to talk, Chloe. He sat down on the couch, motioning for me to sit too. I stayed standing, leaning against the kitchen counter, trying to project an air of casual indifference. I'm listening, I said, my tone sharp. He sighed, rubbing his hands together. I needed space, he said, to think, to figure out how to even talk to you after what I heard. I rolled my eyes. It was a reflex. Oh, come on, Ben. Are we really doing this? You overheard one thing that I said in private to my sister, and now you're acting like it's the end of the world. It wasn't just one thing, Chloe, he said, his voice rising slightly before he brought it back down. You said you wouldn't choose me. That if you could go back, you would do it differently. The truth was, I felt a flash of regret, but admitting it felt like losing. So I doubled down. I went on the attack. Well, maybe I wouldn't, I snapped, the words tasting like acid. Maybe I'd want something more. He just looked at me, waiting. You've changed, Ben, I continued, my voice gaining momentum. We both know it. You're not the same guy I married. You're comfortable. You've let yourself go. You come home, you sit on that couch, and you disappear into your books and your history shows. You don't even try anymore. Can you really blame me for feeling stuck? I expected him to get angry, to defend himself, to fight back. But he didn't. He just looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real, deep hurt in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by that same, terrifying calm. So that's it, he said quietly. You think I'm boring and fat, and that's why you'd rather not be with me. Don't twist my words, I shot back. I didn't say I didn't want to be with you. I said if I could go back, I might have made a different choice. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? He replied, his voice steady. It sounds exactly the same to me. He stood up then, and he suddenly seemed taller, more solid. You know what, Chloe? Maybe you're right, he said, and my heart gave a small, triumphant leap. I was winning. But then he kept talking. I have changed. I've gotten older. I've gotten comfortable. Because I thought that's what you do when you build a life with someone. You build a home, a sanctuary. I thought that's what we were doing. He took a step closer, his eyes locking onto mine. But I think I just got comfortable being the only one trying. My face flushed with anger. Don't you dare make this about me. And then he delivered the blow, the one I never saw coming. He smiled, a sad, empty little smile. Maybe I did let myself go, he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. A man tends to do that when he gets comfortable, so comfortable that he doesn't even notice his wife is looking for excitement somewhere else. Silence. The air crackled. The words hung between us. An explicit, shimmering accusation. He didn't say Leo's name. He didn't have to. My carefully constructed world, my narrative of the wronged, bored wife, it shattered into a million pieces. He knew. Somehow, he knew. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind was a blank, roaring static. Then, instinct took over. The instinct of a cornered animal. Denis. Attack. Deflect. How dare you, I whispered, my voice trembling with manufactured rage. How dare you accuse me of something so disgusting? Just because your feelings are hurt over one stupid comment, you invent this? This lie? To punish me? To make me the bad guy? I was brilliant. Even I almost believed myself. Ben didn't react. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't present any evidence. He just watched me, his expression unreadable. That was the most terrifying part. It was like he was an observer in his own life, just watching the pieces fall. I'm sleeping in the guest room, he said flatly, and walked past me without another word. The days that followed were the strangest of my life. Our house became a cold war zone. We were polite ghosts, orbiting each other in the kitchen in the morning, murmuring "excuse me" if we passed in the hallway. He was civil, he was calm, and it was driving me insane. I lived in a state of constant, low-grade panic. I didn't dare contact Leo. I imagined cameras in the walls, listening devices under the tables. I scoured Ben's laptop, his phone when he foolishly left it on the charger, searching for any clue as to how much he knew. I found nothing. No angry texts to friends. No search history for divorce lawyers. Nothing. His silence was his weapon, and it was devastatingly effective. Meanwhile, the pressure from the outside world was building. Leo was getting impatient. His text shifted from concerned to annoyed. Chloe, what is going on? Are you ghosting me now too? We need to talk. This isn't fair to me. If you don't call me, I'm going to call your house. That last one sent a shockwave of pure terror through me. I called him immediately, storming into our home office and slamming the door. Are you insane? I hissed into the phone. You can't call here. He's home. Then what am I supposed to do, Chloe? Leo's voice was sharp. You drag me into this mess. You tell me your marriage is a joke. And then you disappear the second things get a little complicated. It's more than a little complicated. I shot back, my voice rising despite my best efforts. I think he knows. He's acting so strange, so cold. It's all your fault. My fault? He laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. I didn't force you to do anything. You came to me, remember? Just stay away, Leo, I pleaded, my anger deflating into desperation. Give me some time to figure this out. I hung up, my hands shaking. I leaned against the desk, my head spinning. I had lost control. Completely. When I looked up, my heart stopped. Ben was standing in the open doorway. He wasn't angry. He wasn't yelling. He just stood there, looking at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. It was a mix of pity and profound disappointment. In his hand, he was holding a thin, manila folder. He didn't say a word. He just placed the folder on the corner of the desk, turned, and walked away. The silence he left behind screaming louder than any argument ever could. I stared at the folder as if it were a venomous snake. My mind raced through 100 possibilities, 100 excuses, but I knew. Deep down, I knew the game was over. There was no more bluffing, no more denying. With trembling fingers, I opened it. It wasn't a thick file. It was just a few pages, neatly organized. The first was a credit card statement, my personal one. Highlighted in yellow were a series of charges over the past 6 months. Lunch at a place Ben and I never went to, drinks at a downtown bar, and 2 separate charges for the Chamberlain Hotel. From weeks ago. The next page was a printout of phone records. A single number, circled in red, appeared over and over. Dozens of calls, hundreds of texts. Leo's number. There was nothing dramatic. No private investigator photos. Just cold, hard, undeniable data. The boring, meticulous work of a man who had suspected something was wrong and had quietly, methodically confirmed it. I felt the air leave my lungs. He walked back into the room a few moments later, his face calm. He had known. He had known for weeks, maybe longer. My stupid comment in the kitchen wasn't the spark that lit the fire. It was just the wind that made the inferno visible. Ben, I started, my voice a broken whisper. I didn't want to believe it, he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. Every time I had a doubt, I told myself I was crazy, insecure. But the truth has a way of making itself known, doesn't it, Chloe? My carefully constructed facade crumbled into dust. The only weapon I had left was tears. I'm so sorry, I sobbed, the tears hot on my cheeks. Ben, please. It didn't mean anything. I was just lonely. You were so distant, so wrapped up in your own world. You barely even noticed me anymore. The blame. It just poured out of me. It was a reflex. I needed someone to talk to, someone to make me feel something, anything. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. But it's your fault too. You pushed me away. He listened. He let me finish my whole pathetic performance. When I was done, gasping for air between sobs, he just shook his head slowly. No, Chloe, he said, and his voice was so gentle it was brutal. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. A series of choices. You chose to lie. You chose to cheat. And right now, you're choosing to blame me for it. He walked past the desk and into our bedroom. I followed him, my legs unsteady. What are you doing? I asked. My voice choked with panic as he pulled a suitcase from the top of the closet. That day in the kitchen, he said, not looking at me as he opened a drawer and began neatly folding his shirts. What you said. It hurt. It hurt more than I can ever explain. But you know what hurt more? He paused, a stack of t-shirts in his hand, realizing it was true. You wouldn't choose me again. Because the person I thought I married, the person I chose every single day, she doesn't exist anymore. Maybe she never did. He wasn't yelling. He was just stating facts. The person I live with now is someone who looks for reasons to be unhappy. Someone who tears me down to make herself feel better. Someone who would rather seek comfort in a stranger's bed than have one honest, difficult conversation with her own husband. His words were like punches, each one landing with surgical precision. You don't love me, he said, zipping up the suitcase. And you don't love him. You only love yourself, Chloe. And even then, I don't think you like yourself very much. He picked up the suitcase. He walked towards the door. I scrambled in front of him, grabbing his arm. No, Ben, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. I can change. I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. He looked down at my hand on his arm, and then back up at my face. For the first time, I saw a flicker of the old Ben, a deep, profound sadness in his eyes. I hope you do change, he said softly. I really do. But I can't be here to watch it happen. I've spent years trying to make you happy, and all it's done is make me miserable. He gently removed my hand from his arm. I'm choosing myself now. He walked out of the bedroom, picked up his overnight bag from the living room, and walked to the front door. I stood there, frozen, listening to the sound of his footsteps. And then, for the last time, I heard the soft, final click of the door closing. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork and suffocating silence. The lawyers were polite. The process was efficient. Ben was accommodating. He didn't fight for the house. He didn't argue over assets. He just wanted out. His clean, swift exit was, in its own way, the cruelest blow of all. It was the ultimate statement of his indifference. The relationship with Leo, predictably, imploded. The thrill was gone, replaced by the ugly reality of what we had done. The stolen moments and whispered secrets couldn't survive the harsh light of day. He saw the needy, chaotic person I was, and I saw the selfish, thrill-seeking man he was. We were two broken people who had used each other as a temporary fix. It was over in less than a month. I had it. The freedom I thought I craved. No more predictable husband. No more quiet nights at home. I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. But all I felt was a crushing, cavernous emptiness. The house was too big. The silence was too loud. The freedom was just another word for being utterly, completely alone. About 3 months after he left, I saw him. I was walking downtown, heading to a gallery opening I had no interest in attending. I stopped at a coffee shop to buy myself some time. And there he was. He was sitting at a small table by the window, a cup of coffee in one hand and a thick book in the other. He looked different. Thinner, maybe, but healthier. The constant, low-level tension he used to carry in his shoulders was gone. He looked peaceful. He was alone. There was no beautiful new woman laughing at his jokes. There was just him, perfectly content in his own company. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But I was frozen, just watching him through the glass. As if he could feel my stare, he looked up. Our eyes met. For a second, the entire world fell away. I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, a memory, maybe. A ghost of the life we once had. But then it was gone. He didn't smile. He didn't scowl. He just gave me a small, polite nod. The kind of nod you give a stranger who holds the door open for you. An acknowledgement of existence. Nothing more. Then he turned his gaze back down to his book, dismissing me as easily as turning a page. I was already a part of his history. A chapter he had finished reading. As I turned and walked away from the coffee shop, the full, crushing weight of my choices finally settled over me. It landed in my gut like a stone. I had spent so much time blaming him, picking at his flaws, complaining about his predictability, that I had failed to see the one, glaring truth. The problem was never the quiet life he offered. The problem was the loud, screaming emptiness inside of me. He wasn't the one who had failed our marriage. I was. I had a home. A good, steady, loving home. And I had burned it to the ground myself, just to see if I could feel the warmth of the flames. Now, all that was left was ash.